You're listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. I'm your host, Mo, and I love to play and review old video games and a few new games too. If you prefer to read instead of listen, check out my written reviews at retromo.substack.com. In this episode, I'll be sharing my experience with Goldeneye 007 for the N64, released in 1997. I've scored this game 7.5 out of 10. A good game. The surprise hit that legitimized early 3D console first-person shooters. I recently played through Perfect Dark for the first time, and while I enjoyed it very much, something about it just didn't seem to scratch the same itch that Goldeneye scratches for me. In just about every category, Perfect Dark is objectively the better game. Yet, after playing through both games back-to-back, I still prefer Goldeneye. It's probably just a heaping bucket of nostalgia, but I do think that there's just something special about Goldeneye. A quick note, if you hadn't listened to the Perfect Dark episode yet, there is a fantastic custom version of the 1964 emulator that's been optimized just for Goldeneye and Perfect Dark. This is the absolute best way to play this game. It includes buttery smooth mouse injector controls that make these games playable with mouse and keyboard, just like a modern FPS game on the PC. I cannot adequately state just how much this has improved my experience of these games. You have to try it. Early in development, no one had high expectations for Goldeneye. Yet, it became the third best-selling N64 game of all time, behind two Nintendo juggernauts, Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64. Goldeneye sold over 8 million copies and grossed $250 million, with a budget of only $2 million. Compare this to the Goldeneye film's $352 million gross and $60 million budget. It still shocks me that a licensed Bond game sold more than Nintendo's critically acclaimed Ocarina of Time. Goldeneye is considered to be the first game to demonstrate that consoles could be a viable home for FPS games. While Goldeneye's visuals seem hilariously outdated by today's standards, what Rare accomplished, in spite of the N64's limitations, is truly a feat. Of course, most early 3D games suffered from the same flaws: bare environments, fuzzy textures, chunky polygonal designs, sad-looking skyboxes, poor performance, and lots of repeated or oddly placed assets. However, Goldeneye was still a significant step forward for the rapidly evolving genre. You've got named characters from the film that were actually recognizable, to some degree, and many of the NPCs feature scanned facial textures of Rare staff. Instead of just slapping together some corridors, Rare designers actually visited and photographed MGM's film sets so their level design could more closely resemble the film. Extra details like bullet holes in the walls, cartridge casings being ejected from the guns, and muzzle flashes really added to this game's realism compared to what other games were doing. Glass transparency and lingering smoke impressed gamers at the time. Enemies would respond differently depending on where they're shot. Goldeneye is also considered to be the first console FPS to emphasize headshots. While most may remember Goldeneye for the late-night split-screen multiplayer sessions with friends, the single-player campaign is also a strength of the game. Much of Goldeneye's campaign is simple run-and-gun FPS gameplay, but it's sprinkled with these creative objectives that require stealth, strategy, or a little patience. Many missions are non-linear and give players a little bit of freedom and choice. Killing innocent civilians or a crucial NPC could fail your mission entirely. Many Goldeneye fans might remember the trauma of having to slice through the hatch in the floor of the train level using the laser watch via the Virtua Cop R-button aiming. As a kid, it took me forever to gain enough mastery of the N64 analog stick in order to finish that mission. If you had the gumption to try the two-controller setup, yes, one person using two N64 controllers, Goldeneye is then credited as one of the earliest prototypes of the dual analog control scheme. The reactive enemy AI is another notable feature. Gunshots will alert all enemies and NPCs within a certain detection radius. Alarms can be activated by guards or deactivated by Bond. The harder difficulty levels add new objectives, and you can also unlock 2 bonus missions. and this creates loads of replay value. There are over 20 different types of guns in Goldeneye, many of which are modeled after real-world firearms like the Walter PPK, the AK-74, not to be confused with the AK-47, and the FNP-90. The Klob, named after producer Ken Lobb, was inspired by the Scorpion, and the DD-44 was modeled after the Tokarev pistol. The game also has a built-in mission timer, which has contributed to GoldenEye's thriving speedrunning community. GoldenEye is not without a few frustrations. It's very easy to get disoriented in the repetitive low-poly environments. There's nothing more frustrating than not knowing where to go or what you're supposed to do. At times, I just could not figure out how to complete a mission objective. I've been so spoiled by the hand-holding we've come to expect in modern games. It's also very frustrating to accidentally step into a mission's exit zone before you've completed all the objectives, thus failing the mission. Most importantly though, in spite of a few flaws, GoldenEye is just plain fun. Rare's polish is evident, as the game just feels good to play. Once you adjust to the unique control scheme, of course. Again, try the mouse injector controls. There's something about waltzing into a large open area while dual-wielding DD-44s and just mowing down 10 or more enemy guards, and watching them all flail around in a variety of impressive death animations. Miyamoto was actually so shocked by the realism of the violence in this game that he asked the game director, Martin Hollis, to tone it down. He also requested a very peculiar ending. According to Hollis, Miyamoto suggested that it might be nice if, at the end of the game, you got to shake hands with all your enemies in the hospital. This is hilarious. We don't deserve Miyamoto. The cinematic story is another element that sets GoldenEye apart from other shooters from that era. Now, GoldenEye, the film, is certainly not the best Bond movie, but it does hold a respectable 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. And the script is solid. It's not a bad movie. While the static text-only dialogue in the GoldenEye game pales in comparison to Perfect Dark's full voice acting, GoldenEye was still an important precursor for narrative-based FPS games. Half-Life and Halo would further develop this trend. You wouldn't really expect this from a licensed Bond game, but GoldenEye's soundtrack has really carved out a legacy for itself. The epic pause music in particular has been memed and included as background music in podcasts and videos.
Hey, just wanted to see how that pause music was coming along. Now keep in mind, this is a movie tie-in video game from the Nintendo 64. Not looking for anything too crazy. What do you think about this?
The main James Bond theme is a jam, of course. Also, the mission briefing track, Facility, Silo, and Train, these are all great tracks as well. The elevator music was also a nice surprise. I imagine getting to compose around MGM's Bond theme must have been a thrill for Grant Kirkhope and company, but I do wonder if they leaned a little too heavily on the Bond motifs. It's perhaps the only criticism that I can levy against this soundtrack. The iconic Bond motifs can be heard at some point in just about every single track. Is that overkill? Maybe it would have been nice to hear a few more original tracks. Overall, GoldenEye 007 is still a fantastic game for any fans of the classic low-poly FPS games. If you can get past the flaws common to early 3D pioneers, there's still a lot of fun to be had here. Thanks for listening to the Retro Mo podcast. As always, I do my best to keep all of my content spoiler-free and rated E for everyone. If you find this podcast enjoyable or helpful, tell a friend and consider giving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. If you have questions or comments, you can send an email to retromopodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Godspeed.